On May 8, 1945, Nazi Germany surrendered. In cities across America and Europe, people flooded the streets in celebration. The war, the worst conflict in human history, was finally over. More importantly, it seemed like the world had learned its lesson. The League of Nations had failed after World War I, but this time would be different. The United Nations was being created with genuine commitment from all major powers, including the Soviet Union. Franklin Roosevelt had died just weeks before Germany's surrender, but his vision seemed intact. The Big Three, America, Britain, and the Soviet Union, would maintain their wartime cooperation to ensure lasting peace. Ideological differences would be managed through dialogue and mutual interest and stability. This wasn't naive utopianism. It was based on evidence. The Soviets had fought alongside the West. Stalin had participated in planning sessions at Yalta and Potsdam. There were disagreements, certainly, but nothing that seemed insurmountable. The mood in Washington in summer 1945 was cautious optimism. Yes, there were concerns about Soviet behavior in Eastern Europe, but these were seen as negotiable issues, not fundamental incompatibilities. Here's what almost nobody understood. The warnings were already arriving. They were being filed, summarized, and largely ignored. In February 1946, George Kennan sent a 5,500-word telegram from the U.S. Embassy in Moscow to the State Department. It's now called the Long Telegram, and it's recognized as the intellectual foundation of containment policy. But here's what's forgotten. Kennan had been sending warnings for years. This wasn't his first alert about Soviet intentions. It was just the first one that arrived at the right moment to be heard. The Long Telegram described Soviet foreign policy as fundamentally expansionist, driven by a combination of Marxist ideology and traditional Russian insecurity. Kennan argued that the Soviets viewed capitalism and communism as incompatible systems in permanent conflict. Negotiations could manage specific disputes but couldn't resolve the underlying antagonism. This was clear analysis based on years of observation. It arrived in February 1946. The Cold War is usually dated to 1947 to 1948. That gap matters. For a full year after Kennan's telegram, U.S. policy remained oriented toward cooperation. The assumption was that Soviet behavior in Eastern Europe, installing communist governments, suppressing opposition, closing borders, was defensive positioning that could be negotiated away with the right incentives. What made Kennan's warnings easy to dismiss was that they contradicted recent experience. The Soviets had just spent 4 years as reliable allies. They'd suffered 27 million casualties defeating Germany. The idea that they were now pivoting to global ideological confrontation